Last week, I had a chance to fly out to Poland to get hands-on time with 11-Bit Studios' upcoming title, The Alters. The Alters is a resource management game where players take on the role of Jan Dolsky, an astronaut stranded on a planet trying to collect resources, build up his base, and continue along the planet's surface trying to outrun the harsh sunrise. Our demo began with the start of the game. Here, Jan crash-landed onto the planet and found that he was the sole survivor of his crew. Making his way to the mobile operations base, he had shelter but quickly learned that he would need to gather more resources from the surface to begin to repair it. Jan was able to contact those in charge of monitoring the mission to questionable success and learned that he could get rescued, but he'd first need to make it somewhere safe and far from the ever-encroaching sunlight that would fry the ship and him inside it. Understanding that piloting this ship and making it to safety wasn't entirely within his skill set, Jan's given access to the full power of the quantum computer on board. This computer allows Jan to create alternate timeline versions of himself known as alters. Some Jans that I got to see in my time playing included a technician, miner, scientist, and I had just created a botanist before being told I'd reached the limit in the presentation. The Alters has an incredibly strong opening. There's immediate tension in Jan's predicament, a solid plot hook and objective, and this lingering question of how do we survive this? For me, coming to this event, The Alters was a bit of an unknown quantity. I'd remembered seeing it announced at the PC gaming show, but the gameplay was a bit all over the place. It showed off Fallout Shelter-like base building, the resource management and survival of Frostpunk, but also third-party exploration and resource gathering that was a bit more familiar to me as a casual fan of survival games. Getting hands-on with the game though, it felt like all of these elements worked perfectly together. Gameplay at the beginning was very hand-holdy, showing the players what they should be doing. I can imagine for some, this level of hand-holding would be annoying, but I really enjoyed the blend of story and gameplay as you learn that you need certain resources to build a structure. With so much going on narratively, it never felt like I was simply following a tutorial. There was no point where the game made me feel lost, and as the narrative was introducing concepts like the quantum computer, the story of Jan's life, and the ability to create alters, the pace still felt rapid and kept me engaged. Within 40 minutes, I'd already had an altar or two created, had learned a bit more about them, and was assigning them to help gather resources from the planet's surface. Gameplay in the altars felt like pushing dominoes, that one resource would let me gather another, which would lead to a new structure. I'd then be able to create a new altar, build a new part of the ship for them, and then we'd be moving on to gather more resources. Unlike the harsh pacing of Frostpunk, where a dozen things are all happening at once and it's up to you to somehow balance them all, everything in the altars is very deliberate and smaller in scale. You'll always take steps because you know what you want to do next, and never because you're just reacting to the world. While there wasn't too much time to interact with the altars, what time we did have laid some good groundwork for where the mechanics will lead. As soon as you awaken a new altar, you'll see different emotions appearing around their heads as they're angry or apprehensive. It's not just enough to manage resources, but you also need to be managing your relationships with the versions of you that you might have been. An early example of an interaction with my technician altar was that after learning they were sleeping on the floor at night, I was then able to craft a dormitory that could house up to 4 altars. Looking further down the research tech tree, I noticed that there was also spaces to create private rooms that could further improve moods. I was also able to bond with one of my altars by gifting them a pocket multi-tool that both he and I had fond memories of. It goes to show how exploration might reward the player with resources, but can also provide you a chance to strengthen your bonds with other altars. One very unnerving conversation with an altar came from the birth of the minor variant of Jan. The memories that led to this Jan's current predicament also included him losing his arm in an accident. Awakening with both of his hands was a rattling experience as he continued to suffer phantom limb pain. As I was pondering what something like that could mean, Alex Jordan, the voice actor behind Jan and his different altars, happened to be walking by my booth. While we were talking, he did tease that where these memories come from will be explored more as the game continues. One of the things that most impressed me were the visuals and sound design of the altars. From the moment you crash down on the planet, you're met with known quantities like rain and lightning, as well as the alien elements like the oil slick look of the waves or strange ferrofluid reactions to the sand. The internal environment gave a vibe of a cleaner and more up-to-date aesthetic, similar to what you'd see in sci-fi like the Alien franchise. I was impressed to see how much work had been done on each of the altars. While some only offered slight differences in look, there were others that held themselves in completely different ways. You could tell that they came from a totally different life. As someone who only enjoys a moderate amount of resource balancing, but really enjoys getting stuck into a good story, I was really enjoying the first few hours of the altars. The DNA of what makes Frostpunk and This War of Mine great is definitely very present, but it does feel like the altars is being set up as more of a casual entry into the rest of what 11-bit has to offer. If the gameplay elements of the altars tickle your fancy, then chances are 11-bit already has the next game for you to try. While I only had a few hours to play the altars, it definitely left me wanting for more. I'm looking forward to trying out the game on release and learning more about how much deeper these mechanic goes, as well as diving further into this mysterious story.